Hey everyone. It's funny how a tiny little suffix can completely flip the meaning of an idea, right? How it can turn something useful into a total intellectual trap. It happens all the time. We get tangled up in words that sound almost the same but are worlds apart. One is a tool we can use, and the other, well, it's more like a cage for our thinking. Today, we're going to learn how to spot the difference. So, take a look at these pairs. What's the real difference between being rational and buying into rationalism? Or between the amazing method of science and the rigid worldview of scientism? You might have noticed there's a pattern here, a kind of hidden code. And in this explainer, we are going to crack that code together. Okay, let's get right into it. The key to unlocking this whole thing is actually a surprisingly simple pattern. And it all boils down to one fundamental distinction: the difference between a practical, hands-on method and a complete, all-encompassing worldview. This slide really lays it all out. On one side, you've got a practical method. It's a tool, an approach. It's flexible. On the other side, you have an ideological ism. It's a rigid doctrine, a belief system that claims to be the total worldview. And that little suffix, ism, that's often our biggest clue. It's like a warning sign that a really useful tool might have been hardened into a dogmatic trap. All right, let's put this new framework to the test. First up, we're diving into the world of reason itself. So let's start with just being rational. This isn't some grand philosophy, right? It's a practical quality. When we say someone is being rational, we just mean they're using logic and evidence to think things through. It's a skill you apply, a way of thinking clearly. It's something you do. But then we tack on that ism and everything changes. Rationalism isn't just about using reason. Oh no. It's a full-blown philosophical doctrine. It's the belief that pure reason, all by itself, is the only true source of knowledge. And it often sees real-world experience as messy or, not as important. And looking at them side by side here, the difference is just crystal clear. Being rational is a practical quality, a way you think using both reason and evidence. Rationalism, the worldview, says, nope, it's reason alone. You see the pattern: a flexible tool for thinking on one hand and a complete, rigid belief system on the other. Okay, ready for the next one? We're going to see this exact same pattern play out again, but this time we're looking at how we deal with evidence and observation. So, next up is the word empirical. And again, this is not a belief system. It's a method. It just describes the process of getting your hands dirty and gathering data from the real world. If you can observe it, test it, or measure it, you're taking an empirical approach. It's all about evidence you can actually verify. And boom, here comes that ism again, doing its thing. Empiricism takes that super useful method and turns it into a rigid philosophy. It's the belief that knowledge comes only from what we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. It takes the tool of collecting data and says it's the only way to know anything for sure. And this distinction is so important. The empirical method is a key component of science. It's how we get the data. But empiricism is a philosophical stance that says this method is the beginning and the end of all truth. Once again, there's our pattern: a useful process versus an exclusive all-or-nothing belief. And now for our final, and maybe the most hotly debated example of them all. Let's apply our framework to science itself. This is where this whole distinction gets really, really important in a lot of conversations we're having today. Okay, so what is science, really? At its core, science is a method. It's an unbelievably powerful and successful process for understanding the natural world. But it's a tool, a dynamic way of asking questions and testing them. And what's beautiful about it is its humility. It's always open to being corrected by new evidence. But then you get scientism. And this is the worldview that says the scientific method is the only legitimate path to knowledge, period. It's the belief that science can or will eventually explain everything, from physics to consciousness to why we love to morality. It takes the powerful tool of science and turns it into a totalizing ideology. And here's the bottom line. Science, the method, works alongside other disciplines like philosophy, art, and ethics. It knows its lane. It doesn't claim to have all the answers. Scientism, the ideology, often just dismisses those other fields as meaningless. It's the difference between using a hammer really well and thinking every single problem in the universe is a nail. So, after all that, why does this matter? I mean, who cares about a little ism here or there? Well, it matters a lot, because this isn't just some abstract word game. It has huge implications for how we think and, honestly, how we talk to each other. When you get this difference, it helps us have much clearer, more productive conversations. It lets us appreciate amazing tools like reason and science for what they are, without letting them morph into these rigid dogmas that actually shut our minds down. It just promotes more precise thinking and helps us realize that, the world's big questions usually require more than just one tool from the toolbox. And that brings us to the end. But I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Now that you can see this pattern, this shift from a flexible tool to a rigid trap, what other isms out there in your world might be more than they seem? It's a powerful lens to look through. I hope you find it useful. Thanks so much for tuning in.